Dreaming. Welcome, tubers. As soon as they come on, they're not going to see this part, but I
it
will
is on my phone.
Get her tweeted out and everything. Let's
all
see.
this like mechanics we have to do now with all these different things that are. Although Matt's certainly been on since we started doing all this nonsense.
Yeah. All right. Sherman, you got to keep people entertained here.
Oh, that's right. Rusty has keyboard stuff. Well, I mean, I don't think it's going to be any surprise to you, Matt, what we're going to want to talk about. There's a couple of things going on in the NASCAR world, playoffs and Ross Chastain and other things that are certainly interesting topics to talk about. Harvick becoming the new... Well, I won't say what I want to say because I already got in trouble on Twitter this weekend for saying what I wanted to say.
What's up, Roger? What's up, Bob?
What's funny is it's really the people that get upset by it are the ones that are like, they're like on the fringe anyway. And like, oh, I don't know what you are, but now I hate you because you said the thing about my guy. You know, somebody blocked me today because I said something not so great about Urban Meyer after all this stuff. It's like, I don't care. Like I don't care. If you're upset because
story of my life and career.
You know, right? I mean, I know you've dealt with a ton of this, and you've dealt with, well, you've certainly put up with a lot from me in the Twitter space, whether it's racing or it's baseball related or whatever else. I mean, imagine if you don't like have a rapport with someone and can't say, hey, at the end of the day, like, I'm still going to buy you a beer if you want, you know, like, or whatever, you know, or an iced tea or whatever. Like, we have that, but it's interesting. It's an interesting space.
What?
All right. So I'm still got to talk. Nope. My monologue's over.
We're good. We're good.
I don't have any more to say.
I'll make sure this happens. And Weaver, we may cut out for about 30 seconds while we're hooting and hollering and the music's playing and all that, but we'll be right back with you.
Oh, yeah. Sydney's going to join us here via recording for a little bit.
I guess I'm ready. Sherman, you ready?
Yeah.
Weaver, you ready?
Light it up.
I'll take that as a yes. Off we go. Recording now. Welcome, y'all! Ski! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 163. It's Tuesday, September 18th, 2018. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. We have what I would say is our favorite guest.
Yeah. Well, not disparage any other one, but
certainly not disparaging
always a good time.
Anybody else that's joined us. But this is our guy.
This is our guy.
He's been as loyal to us as we have tried to be to him. I think he comes out on the winning end of that in terms of how great of a dude he is and how much time he's given us over the years. And we're super excited to have him.
Before we do, this podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month and get your free koozie. The best part is, every cent in 2018, we're donating to sponsor and drivers once again. So join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That is Laura Henshaw, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Tony Salt, Kobe McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marion LeVest, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Billy Workman, Ricky Porter, Jumpy Bob and Les Miller, Tommy Witt, got to take a breath, Mark Wiley, Julie Bosley, and John Pearson.
Hashtag PTM Posse.
Woo! How about that? Oh, man. Well, there it is. Well, with that crazy intro, now that I'm out of breath, I ran it too far that time. You know, like,
just went a little too hard.
You can recover if you take that breath early on, earlier. But I was going to try to make them all, and then I went, no, I'm not going to be able to make it. And then now you run out of breath and blah, blah, blah. You know,
right.
So, with that, Sherwin already said it. Let's welcome back to the show multi-time PETM PhD, Associate Motorsports Editor for Auto Week on Twitter at Matt Weaver AW. It's Matt Weaver. Weaver, what's up, dude?
Hey, once again, you guys are lowering the standards of this podcast, but I appreciate y'all having me on, but I'm going to try my best to keep y'all afloat at least a little bit.
Well,
well, I don't know that we could lower our standards any lower than we already set the bar. Yeah. So
people have already lowered their expectations. So.
Yeah, I mean, NASCAR chasm. That's like he's famous for that,
right?
You should set your expectations very low.
Well, Weaver, you know how we kick this thing off every time. Tell us what you're drinking on tonight.
Oh, I can do you one better. I can do you one better than what I'm drinking. Okay? Because, honest to God, I am talking to you guys. I am podcasting live from outside a Subway because I haven't ate all day. I'm hungry as hell. I knew that I had to talk to you guys. But this isn't what I'm drinking. This is what I'm eating. I'm eating a Subway meatball marinara as I'm trying to podcast simultaneously.
I think that's a first.
Excellent.
I love it. What you eating?
Yeah, what you eating?
You got chips with that, or
yeah,
is it just
have to? We'll put that in the hashtag when we publish the show.
Yeah. You know what? If he did have chips, I think everybody would know, too. You'd hear that crunching, right?
Right.
Well, I bet you got something to wash it down with, though.
Oh, I do. It's the trusty Pepsi Cola.
Pepsi Cola.
My goodness.
Man. Talking to two dudes
enemy
sitting in Atlanta drinking the Pepsi. I don't know about that one.
Listen. Pepsi and marinara sauce are baseball, apple pie, Americana, Chevrolet. It's all synonymous.
Well, I drive a Dodge, right? And I drink Coca-Cola. You know what? Me and Sherwin, we were, I think we were coming back from Darlington, and we stopped at a gas station, and I had put the gas tank or did the little latch on the gas handle that held it up, and I told him, I said, you remember when Weaver tweeted out that they didn't have those in Canada or something? I seem to remember. I laughed at that. They didn't have those in Canada or something. You shoved a water bottle in there. Is that right?
Yeah. So actually, what I did was I went down to the NASCAR Pinty Series race in Tucasa Motor Speedway in Ontario, and I'm driving through Toronto, run out of gas a little bit, and need to fill her up. And I pull over, and they don't have the latch, and they are so commonplace down in the South.
Right.
And I realized why later, but what I had to do was I took a gift card that had expired months ago, and I had kind of wedged it in there, and I went to the bathroom. And I come out of the bathroom, and the gas station attendant looks at me aghast, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just got out of the loo. What do you mean, what am I doing? Like, like, well, I had to shut your gas tank off because you walked away from it and you lodged something in there. I'm like, yeah, so? I'm like, well, that's illegal. I'm like, listen, look, I'm sorry to be the dumb American sitting in a Canadian gas station. I've only been in Canada for 2 days now, first time I've ever been here. I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was such a taboo thing. I will remember that next time I show up. Now, what I learned is this is not just a Canadian thing. You actually see this in the Northeast too. So when we go back up there for Dover, the Dover playoff race, or if we're going to New Hampshire, they actually have very similar rules. And because it gets so cold there in the winter, and you have kind of this dry winter, that any sort of like movement, whether it's jeans rubbing against something, the static electricity could cause a fire. So because of that, in Canada, New England, they take off the latches. But that's not a problem here in Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, thank God.
Right.
I'm going to call bull spit on that.
Yeah. So same thing out west. You go out west and we'll get rental cars to go hiking and stuff. And I mean, you get zapped every time you get in or out of the car. And I mean, you're just angry by day 2. And you run up to the car and you just kind of punch it every time so that that you can get it on the back of your fist instead of getting it on like your pinky fingertip and it hurts. So yeah, I hear you on that. No, we don't have to deal with static electricity down here as I'm sweating and it's 70 degrees.
Not so much. Maybe a little bit in the winter, just a little bit.
Yeah. Sherwin, what are we drinking on tonight? We've got an amalgamation here of everything from Rusty's bar and fridge.
We do have a bar here.
Yeah. We kind of
well, we got the Michters from last week that you basically destroyed over the past week because we didn't even get into it.
I don't know what happened to that. Somebody drank all that liquor.
I think you destroyed it. That's what happened.
I
brought from home a bourbon and ginger beer.
Very nice.
In my Georgia Tech, thing
the
you're
clear
supposed to
koozie thing?
drink healthy water in.
Yeah,
that's not happening.
Look at me. Yeah, Nalgene bottle.
We got
Georgia Tech.
Ballast Point.
Got like a Oktoberfest. There's
beer.
Blind Pirate. There's there's all kinds of everything.
Dragon's Milk.
Oh, look out.
What is this?
What is this?
Oh, Victory Hop
I like
Devil.
it. The Hop Devil. All right. Well, we've got tons of stuff. Who knows what you're going to see us pull here during this.
If we survive, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah. Well, we were saying in the very brief pre-show, it's been a while since we talked to you. What's been going on? What's been going on in the Weaver life?
You know, it's been an interesting year for me. To most of the people who know me on a more personal level, know that I moved back to Alabama back in April or May, around that time. And so it's made the travel aspect of what I do a little bit more complicated because it's not as easy to travel out of Mobile as it was Charlotte. But there's been a lot of benefits, too. I mean, being back home in Alabama has provided a little bit more flexibility. I've been able to go to a lot more short track events for short track theme than I probably did last year. And so it's been a fun year. And certainly on the NASCAR side, it's been exciting. And I feel like every time I go to a race, more often than not, there's something really interesting that I get to report on, whether it's the excitement of the playoffs we have going on now. There's been some fights in super late model racing, or just some feel-good stories. It's been a fun year, and I can't wait for the final 4 months or so.
So tell us, so while we're on that subject, what went down in the ARCA race this past weekend?
Yeah, so Zane Smith and then Michael Self were the aggravators, for the lack of a better term here. They just raced each other hard. I think Zane is not totally used to being raced hard at the ARCA level. There's not a lot of guys there right now who are as aggressive as Michael is. And to Michael's credit, he's won a couple of races this year, and he's a more veteran guy, at least compared to the teenagers like a Zane Smith. So they raced each other pretty hard, and there was one incident, and this was probably the second or third time they came together in that race, that Zane spun off of Michael Self's nose, and it busted his radiator. And I don't know if it was just the aggravation from being raced hard by Michael Self or what happened at Berlin a couple of weeks ago where Joe Graff used him up to win that race. But they fixed his car, and he gets back on the track, and it's obvious to everyone why he's back on the track and what his purpose is. And his team comes over the radio and says, don't do something stupid here, Zane. And he says, I'm committed. And it turns the radio off. And he tries to get Michael Self in 1 and 2, misses them, comes back in 3 and 4, and just dumps the shit out of them. Yep. And tears up both cars. It's very much kind of like a Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano, Martinsville type situation. Yep. And, crews are having to separate the drivers, and ARCA makes them sit down and talk to each other. And, in subsequent podcast appearances, Zane didn't even, try to hide the whole point. He very much said, it's payback. And he felt like Michael Self denied him a chance to win the championship. He was trying to chase down Sheldon Creed. And felt like, if he's going to ruin my season, I'm going to ruin his race. And that's what he did.
Wow. That's there's the first degree and the second degree. I think there's a lot of tolerance for the second degree payback, oh, he bumped me, and now I'm going to bump him back. Who we're going to talk about here shortly with Ross Chastain and Kevin Harvick at Darlington. I guess that's the most recent one I can think of. And I would call that kind of the second degree, right? This wasn't premeditated. Ross didn't go off the track and then come back.
Oh, yeah, this isn't murder one.
Right. This is manslaughter.
This is just a reactionary in the moment.
Yeah.
In Georgia, we call that, it's actually murder 3, but we call it manslaughter.
Yeah, but this sounds like dude went back to his house, polished his gun,
right?
Came on back
and said, "Yep, I'm still going to do this."
yeah. So that's I'm not sure that's what's been the
reaction. That's kosher.
Yeah, what's been the reaction? Has it been pretty?
Well, the surprising part that I think to all of us was that ARCA came out with the penalty this afternoon, and all Zane Smith got for taking a car that had to be repaired 40 laps later, getting back in that car with the sole purpose of, sending another guy firewall deep into a concrete wall, was a $5,000 fine and 100 points. And I think that a lot of people, myself included, were very surprised that he didn't get a one-race suspension at a minimum. I think the general consensus amongst talking to people in the ARCA garage is that this probably wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. Because right now, if you look at the ARCA series today to where it was half a decade ago, you don't have the veterans you used to. You don't have the Frank Kimmel, the Tommy Hesserts, the Josh Williams. I mean, I made the joke, and I don't know if you guys have had Josh on the show before. I think maybe y'all have. But Josh is just a blue-collar, tough guy, and I just can't imagine Zane Smith, drilling Josh Williams or Grant Enfinger or Frank Kimmel into the wall because, that's a fight. Once he gets out of the car, he's not going to win. And I think that if there were just more of those older veteran guys who are in the garage, it would probably be a situation to where it would police itself. And listen, I know I'm being awfully hard on Zane. Zane's a good dude. I've covered him a lot in his late model stuff, and really talented race car driver. I just think there has to be repercussions for decisions like this, and if the sanctioning body isn't going to make those repercussions heavy-handed enough, I'm very, very curious to see what the rest of the garage might do, especially considering the car that Zane crashed belonged to Billy Venturini. We all know that Billy gets even eventually, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I knew Venturini was involved in the whole deal. So the thing I would ask is, and I don't know if this is analogous at all, maybe it's not, but if we can compare this to what happened 3 years ago with Kenseth and Logano, NASCAR didn't do, for lack of a better way of saying it, NASCAR didn't do a gosh darn thing. Mm-hmm. And that was a little bit off-putting to us as fans. So was this I think I saw it was a $3,000 fine and 100 points deducted. Is that enough to deter that behavior? Or, to your point, is this going to become an issue going forward? Is there going to be more, or is that like NASCAR or ARCA at this point has closed the door on that behavior?
Well, listen, I think that with Kenseth and Logano, I thought that was pretty appropriate. I don't know if anything further they would have done besides one more race, Homestead, would have been, any more heavy-handed. There was the penalty, the fines, all that stuff.
Yeah, and so for the people that are listening,
ultimately, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Look, I want there to be punishment because, I think it was Scott Heckert, sports car driver, K&N driver, occasional Xfinity Series driver. He said there has to be repercussions for this because you're driving a guy firewall deep into a concrete wall, and we're in this era where we're understanding more and more about concussions and the sort of things that cause them. And it's unacceptable to have a guy drill another guy into a concrete wall and continue racing for the rest of the year. On the other hand, I want to be very careful how I word this. I appreciate the passion and the fire and the emotion that comes out of race car drivers. I just don't want to see race car drivers use the cars as a weapon. If you've got a problem with how someone raced you, or if you feel like someone ended your shot at the championship, get out of the car and whoop his ass. I mean, handle it like men.
Yeah.
And take off your damn helmet while we're at it, too. You know, the guys who go try fight another driver and you've got your helmet on. You know, if you want to fight someone, and if you're willing to run someone, again, firewall deep into a concrete wall, you clearly want to fight him. So do it. Take off the helmet, get out of the car, and fight him that way. Stop using the cars as weapons, because you're going to hurt someone and you might kill someone.
Yeah, like running up to the pitcher's mound with the bat and you're still in your hand.
Well, I'm okay with that in some instances.
Well, we'll avoid that for now and get on. It's time to start the report card. Let's tear it down. Dudes, I got to tell you, first period, we're going to talk about Ross Chastain, and we've talked about it. I think I idolize him a lot. It's what's going on here in terms of
watermelon.
Yeah, with his background, with how cool he has been in hanging out with fans and engaging with folks, and just such a cool dude to meet in person. I was we've already talked about it when we were at Darlington. I haven't been that excited at a race since Casey won back in 2015. Was it at Atlanta to get into the playoffs, or was it
2014?
2014. That was incredible to me to watch that race. This was the most excited I'd been since then, and then this is probably the most excited I've been at watching a race in a long time too. I don't know. I mean, obviously now I'm a fan, or I've been a fan since meeting him. But it was really cool. I don't know if that vibe is hitting everybody else too. But this sure seems like a big deal. Weaver, is this as big a deal as I'm blowing it up to be, or is this I don't know, business as usual, or what's this mean for the sport?
It's complicated to frame this in a big picture narrative because. My fear with this story is that, Ross is going to have won one, maybe two if he wins again at Richmond, of these starts with Ganassi. And at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't even change his story. Unless there's some scenario where he ends up in the one car, and people are saying he's an option there. I think Kurt's going to end up in the 41 or the one Cup car. But people are talking like, maybe there's a scenario where Ross is impressive enough to where he ends up in the one car that McMurray's in. I don't think that's going to happen, and my fear is he's going to get right back in the JD Motorsports car. And listen, those guys are awesome. What they've been able to do this year, making the most out of what they have, but that car has a certain feeling. And I just fear that it's going to go back to Ross just being who he was before he won this race with Ganassi. And I would point no further than Jeremy Clements winning at Road America last year. To me, that was an even more impressive story, the fact that he won it with a family team. And he won it in an Xfinity Series blue-collar team, not a Diet Cup car, as I called it. To me, people have already forgotten Jeremy's win. And I just feel like if nothing becomes of this, the world will keep on spinning, and drivers who bring far more money than talent will continue getting a lot of the rides that are capable of winning races, and people will forget that a guy like Ross is out there capable of winning races and championships because he doesn't bring a check.
Whew. I would say off the top, and I know we're allowed to disagree with each other, and that's what we do here sometimes because we're adults and we have opinions, but I couldn't disagree with you more about the Jeremy Clements thing. Because that was such a weird condition with a wet track, running rain tires, and he dumped a guy to win the race. Ross Chastain went to Darlington, kicked everybody's ass except Kevin Harvick's, and didn't win the race because he tore his car up. Then he went to Vegas and kicked everybody's ass and won the race. That, to me, those two are very different situations.
So you're saying kind of like a different future.
Well, the glide path is way different.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Is the glide path is way different.
So we didn't. I would
argue that Ross should be up front, even contending, because he's in a Cup car for all intents and purposes, to where Jeremy wasn't. And I think that's the dynamic there. I mean, Jeremy shouldn't have even been near the front, and the fact that he did on wet conditions with a family-owned car, to me, even being in the mix, and that was a weird race, but even being in the mix, no matter how he had to do it, was considerably more impressive to me than running up front in a car that has won multiple times out of a Cup shop with a Cup driver.
So
fair.
We did not seed this question in the pre-show at all, but Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick was asking us essentially that question. Compare Clemens and Ross Chastain wins, which I think we've done at this point. I think he was saying which one is more impressive, and Weaver and Sherwin have answered that question.
It's like Reagan winning at Talladega 3 or 4 years ago. To me, that's the same thing. That's no different.
I gotcha. Is it appropriate at all to talk about Ross as a playoff contender?
So I don't know if you guys saw it or not. I wrote the column on Saturday night that if I'm DC Solar and I'm Ganassi, you got to find some way to reward this guy for what he's been able to do. And I know there are some other teams that are fringe playoff guys who are saying, well, what about what we've done? But to me, I think it would be so cool and I know you can give him the 42 car outright because they have agreements in place with John Hunter Nemechek and Justin Marks are going to be splitting that car during the playoffs. But if you could find a way to get him in a Ganassi-built car in some way or form for at least 6 of these final, last couple of races, that would be tremendous. If you could work out some sort of deal with JD Motorsports to where, maybe you can continue running it as the 4, but it's going to be car that we prepped out of our shop and your team gets to use it, and DC Solar is going to be on the car for maybe a slightly reduced cost. I don't know. I don't have enough business savvy to even comprehend how this can work out. But you've got a really cool opportunity, DC Solar does, of going out there and rewarding a guy that's busted his tail and can really drive a race car and have a unprecedented championship. But if he goes back to JD Motorsports after Richmond is over and he's in the same stuff he's been in, he just doesn't have enough firepower to even make it to Homestead when you're running up against Junior Motorsports and you're running up against JGR and you're running up against Team Penske and RCR and all those guys. You just don't have the muscle to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and one of the things I saw on Twitter, and I know that's one of those pipe dream things that was similar to what you mentioned, is now all of a sudden the 4 car or the 15 or the 00 whatever car for JD Motorsports is now all of a sudden it becomes a satellite Chip Ganassi car. And you're like, hey, we're going to partner with you. We're going to give you technology. We're going to give you chassis. We're going to give you motor. Can we figure out how to try to run Ross for a championship? And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's too challenging to put all those pieces together in the right way. But it certainly would be cool. And as a Ross Chastain fan, that's exactly what I would want them to try to do.
Well, and give him a couple chances throughout here, and if something crazy happens and he ends up at Homestead,
build him a car.
Yeah, somebody's going to build him a car at that point. It's going to be people be fighting to do that at that point. So I don't know. That's a pipe dream stuff. But
sorry to interrupt you. I'm talking over the top of you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool to see a guy win a championship at the Xfinity level and running a bunch of different cars doing it like he's taking his points to this team, to that team, the other team. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't really seen that before. I think we've seen it in terms of a single ownership of a car where, Brad Kay and Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano have won a championship in the 22 from an owner perspective at the Xfinity level because, they've all rotated in and out of those cars.
Yeah.
But we haven't really seen a driver, drive JD Motorsports car, drive a Chip Ganassi car, and maybe maybe Junior has an interesting run at Richmond. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to run another R&D car, and we're going to put Ross in it at whatever race in Texas.
Yeah,
and
the I've called Ross before the troubadour of NASCAR, and I think that would put a seal on that, if anything. But pipe dream stuff, whatever. It's time to go to second period, dude. I'm blowing the horn.
Hey, real quick. Real quick. Let me float an idea by you guys real quick.
Please.
I had this wild theory, and this was 3 years ago, that I think is slowly starting to come closer to fruition. It was Dakota Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
The first year that Xfinity ran the win and you're in playoff format, he was outside of the playoffs and trying to work his way closer to the cutoff point to win a race and get in that way. And for one race at Iowa, he actually ran with Joe Gibbs Racing. And it was just his way of trying to go get a win. And I had this crazy idea after that Iowa race. Now, he didn't win, so it didn't matter. But what if we saw a scenario where guys would split part of the season in a low-budget car? And right now, the Xfinity Series full-time regulars are so sparse that you can if you've got just a decent enough equipment, you've got like 20 full-time regulars right now. All you got to do is be the 12th best, and you get into the playoff field. So what if you found some way that all you had to do was pay for 12 to 13 races with a good team, and bring a sponsor or find the funding to run with a Penske, a Gibbs, a JRM, pick your team, and you're in the car for 3 regular season races and the entirety of the chase. And the reason why you can do that now, because NASCAR has banned Cup Series drivers from the regular season finale, from the Dash for Cash, from the entire playoffs.
Excellent
so what if
point.
this set up like a new precedent, a new normal, to where a guy like Ross Chastain spends most of the regular season with JD Motorsports, then moves over to Ganassi for the championship hunt. John Hunter Nemechek, same thing. What if he splits it between Nimco and Ganassi? And this becomes the new way to try to spend your money in the Xfinity Series. You can run for a discount with a smaller team, and then run 13 races for a big team, go contend for a championship.
And it takes a hell of a driver to be able to do that, and I think we're seeing that possibly with Ross. So that's really cool. I'm
Austin Cindric too. Austin Cindric has been in 3 different cars this year.
Yes, and his name is. They're talking about him every race. He's running up there. So
you're talking about Cindric?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dude, I got to go to second period because I've been waiting for 2 days, however long now, to blow this horn for the 3rd time in a row. Here it
different
comes.
horn.
I know.
This is like a different thing.
This is I'm doing it. I'm playing it again. There it goes. Oh man. So Weaver, 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks, whatever it is, 3 races ago, I picked Brad Keselowski to win, and it was one of our, just random whatever. We just
because I stole your pick, right?
It might have been too.
You picked Chase.
You picked Chase, and I said, "All right,
pick,
well,
and he finished like 6th, so I did all right."
Yep, and I picked Brad, and he won, and yay, we got to blow the horn. And then the next race, I was like, "Well,
Indy.
I'm just gonna, Indy." I'm like, "I'm just gonna double down. We'll just, hey, why not? Yeah, push all the chips there." And
especially since we knew that is a strategy race, and Paul Wolf is a strategy master.
Yep. And so Vegas comes around, and it's like, well, dude, just for kicks, just because
it's craps table,
just because it's funny,
let it roll.
I have to pick him again, and here we are, 3rd week in a row. So is it Brad or is it me, Weaver?
This team is just they're very crafty. We talk in stick and ball sports, especially baseball, that there are teams that can beat you in a lot of different ways. The good teams can maybe pitch you to a win on a given day. Play defense, hit the home run, whatever. That's the number 2 team right now. They can beat you on speed. They can beat you on strategy. They can beat you on just attrition and survival. And they've been a top 5 team all year. And sometimes, when things start to go crazy, they find themselves up front, and that's what they're doing really well right now. They're just surviving.
Is he the new Jimmy Johnson, or better yet, Tony Stewart, late season front runner this year? Is he? Do you see this, continuing, and possibly Brad being kind of the? I mean, he's obviously the guy with the mo right now. Is he the one? I don't know. Is he the one everybody's writing about? Everybody's talking about in terms of this is the guy to beat, or is this kind of like we're in his bread and butter tracks, or what do you think?
It's funny. Before he even won 3 in a row, I was just kind of looking at statistics, and I was feeling pretty confident about picking Brad to win at Richmond because he's always been so good there. And I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that we're talking about 4 in a row. And, we've been talking about the big 3 all year. We do have the big 4. And look, here's the reality of the NASCAR Cup Series right now. The 18 and the 4 are going to be at Homestead. We saw it with the 4 team this past week. They had a crash. They finished 39th, and they're still 30 points to the good because of how many playoff points they had. And they're going to get those playoff points every single round. So Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick are both going to be there. So who's going to be the other 2? I think the 78 is probably good, but we're almost to a point now, if the 2 wins a couple of more times, that maybe we're talking about having those 4 guys be the final 4. And wouldn't it be a crazy story that the same 4 guys who ran for a championship last year are going to do it again this year?
It would be interesting. I wouldn't hate it.
I think that also discounts, that's racing in on points regardless. So if somebody else decides to win, then
I like decides.
Decides.
That's a fun word. Decide.
If we're
just going to win this race, and then we'll go to the next one.
We're just going to decide that we're winning this one. That would be, that would be pretty impressive. I should say, if those 4 do that. So, good point. There is no doubt. You know what? We usually let the guest pick first, but I think there's no doubt who I'm going to pick for Richmond.
Well, you have to.
right. I'm pot committed.
You're you can't, obligated.
You can't not. Yeah,
you're on a heater, dude.
yeah. You don't quit while you're up. Wait for the first one.
Well, you have nothing to lose.
Right. So I'm going all in.
Yeah.
So with that, let's go third period. One thing about the playoffs I wrote here is, and we've said this before, one I guess hat nod to what the playoffs are doing is we're going to pay as much attention to what's going on up front with the Brad Keselowskis, with the Kyle Busch, with and the big 4 as Weaver just put it. We're looking just as much at the bottom part as it goes on. So I'll give it some props / accolades for that. So let's talk about that bottom. Wild ride this weekend for Chase and Eric Jones. They got some uphill climbing, and I mean, Denny is, he's half a race behind now. So
wow. Highly hilarious considering what he said at Indy.
True, yeah. So he for the second time this year, kind of dug a little bit of a.
He doesn't know.
Dug himself into a hole. Yeah.
What was? There's a movie that's like you got. Oh, it was Aaron Brockovich. You got 2 wrong feet and effing ugly shoes. All right.
So Weaver, what's your thoughts on the bottom side of this playoff hunt?
So listen, I've been an apologist for this format from the very beginning, even before they started doing stages and playoff points. But I think what they have right now is probably, I'm sure I've told you guys this before, the best combination between a system that rewards regular season, year-long excellence, but also providing the intensity of a playoff format. And I think you're seeing it awfully early right now with the bottom 4, with Eric and Denny and Jimmy and Chase, and even Alex Bowman is right there in the cutoff too. You've got some big names there who are going to have to fight and claw. And if you want to know how important that winning races all year is, let's just look back to Indianapolis and the fact that Denny was not able to hold on against Brad, because instead of being 20 points out, 22 points out, if he wins that race and he has what happens to him at Vegas, we're instead talking about him being 14 to 16 points out instead.
Yep.
And that's a pretty significant difference when we're talking about 3 race rounds and the sort of flexibility that you have to come back. But at 22 points out, he's probably in must-win mode, unless the Charlotte Roval is completely crazy, and it very well could be, and maybe everyone's going to get a mulligan. But I'm so doggone entertained right now, knowing that what we're going to see at Richmond on Saturday night, what we're going to see at the Roval, there are so many good storylines to follow throughout the top 20, and I'm entertained.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I don't think Hamlin's going to be able to rest on the Roval laurels because he's not really a great road course racer. We saw him finish second to Tony Stewart, with that sort of slam crash. Tony's last win.
Tony doing Tony stuff.
At Infineon. Well, he deserved it because he moved Tony first, so it was kind of a tit for tat. That was great finish to a race, but Denny's got to be thinking, I've got to finish top 3 at Richmond. Maybe even win the race.
I was going to say, I got to be in top 3 at the white flag.
He's got to score an average of at least 5 stage points in both of those rounds. He's got to be top 5 after stage 1, top 5 after stage 2, and then he's got to be top 10 by the end of the race. And that way, maybe you could start to eat into it that way. But if he's not scoring points, he has to win, bottom line.
Well, absolutely. And he's going to be racing against guys that are actually pretty good at Richmond, like Jimmy Johnson and
Brad Keselowski.
And Chase Elliott.
Yeah.
I mean, Brad may very well win the race. Right. He just when you got a heater, you just ride the heater.
Right.
But and we haven't seen somebody win 4 races in a row since Jimmy, what was that, almost 10 years ago or something?
Was it?
It's been a minute. But
2007.
Yeah.
Boom.
Nice
Rest
call.
of the day.
Winner.
For once.
So, I mean, you can't count on – this is why I was saying earlier today on Twitter, I thought Bowman is in a pretty good position to move on because he's 20 points up, and all he has to do is top 15 his way in the next 2 races, and he's probably going to make it because this just by a law of averages.
Well, and we've said it before. I keep saying it that this first round is the survival round. Whether or not
first round is the one that gets the people out that shouldn't have been there to begin with,
or the ones that don't survive, or the Denny Hamlins that
or the ones that shoot themselves
in
the foot.
Yeah, anything. So
used to be Kyle Busch, by the way. Remember?
Yeah.
For a long time, he would just totally shoot himself in the beginning of the chase.
Yeah. So with that, let's go fourth period here. A little bit of a curveball. Sherwin, I think we talked about Alon Day. Alon, if you're pronouncing it one way or another. Day.
Alon is the way we say it in my company, and
we say Alon.
I work with an Alon that is an Israeli.
Yeah. Same here, which is funny. So me and Sherwin both work. My company's no longer based out of Israel, but we have a very strong Israeli arm. Sherwin, same sort of thing, and
we're
and
English owned now, but we still have a strong Israeli presence,
right? And so we've both been to Israel and hung out with those folks, and it's really cool.
Tel Aviv is the bomb, y'all. It's a cool place,
yeah.
And everybody's really pretty,
as it turns out. Alon Day, first driver outside of North America to make a Cup start. He's going to be at Richmond. He comes from Tel Aviv, Israel. With a lot of accolades in the Whelen Euro Series, not just accolades, but I mean he won the dadgum championship there last year,
and he whooped some ass in F1, and we've seen him compete extremely well at the Indy 500.
Yeah. Weaver, do you think this is a one-time sort of parade lap, if you will, to use the vernacular, or do you think there's possibly a future here?
It's a good story. I'm just not sure that it has legs as far as being anything that's got longevity. Great guy, good talent. I'm not sure if he's a great talent. I'm not totally sure what the competition level is like over there in Europe, because it's just so far removed from everything that we do. but anytime that you win a championship or something, that's pretty doggone good. But he faces the same problem that everyone faces. He needs funding, and the sort of ride that he finds himself in is indicative of the fact that he doesn't have a ton of money to get really good rides. But to me, the most impressive thing that he did was a couple of years ago. He took a zombie dodge in the rain inside the top 5 in an Xfinity Series race, I believe at Mid-Ohio. And it was just so impressive, the fact that that guy could drive a car that hard in the rain and make passes and keep it on the track. And so I would love to see, a Ross Chastain scenario. Let's get him in a good car just once to see what happens. But for now, it's just about getting him seat time, getting him experience. He still doesn't have a ton of oval experience, a ton of experience here in the state. So I think we're still a year or two away from him getting that sort of opportunity. But more importantly, we're a couple of dollars short from getting him that opportunity too.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how would you compare Alon Day's? I've used glide path too many times. That's the only phrase I can think of. But how would you compare what Alon Day is doing to what Fernando Alonso might be potentially doing,
or what Daniel Suarez did?
That's a good addition.
I think that the similarities there are the same as the nutritional value between the meatball marinara that I just had and eating a banana. I'm not sure there's anything that's comparable between any of those scenarios, because Fernando has a ton of money. Suarez has a considerable amount of money that borders on a ton of money, and Day has virtually no money.
No money.
It's not
no
really
money.
the same.
So Alon Day is the Ron White of racing. As a child, no money. All right. No, that's cool. I appreciate you providing that perspective, because those are things that, like, us hobby podcasters and fans kind of look at and go, we all see that kind of the same. It's like, between Suarez and Alonso and Alon, it's like, all right, well, this all looks kind of the same. Like, wouldn't this be good if all these guys were racing in America in a stock car? Well, we'd probably all like that. Mm-hmm. But your point really hits home in that there are a lot of ducks that have to get in a row.
And a lot of dollars that got to get in a row.
And a lot of dollars that have to get into bank accounts for that to happen.
Yeah. Moving on to...
Think of a guy like Alex Bowman. Right? I mean, Alex Bowman is a guy that we all believe, to some degree, has possibly Cup race winning talent. The book is still open.
Qualifiers there.
But we had no idea when he was driving for BK Racing, for Tommy Baldwin, because he didn't have the funding, the money to be able to get himself in a good equipment.
Yep.
And now he's in the 88, and right now Hendrick is off a little bit, so I'm still not sure we totally know who Alex Bowman is. But until we get drivers in really good equipment, it's just impossible to say who they are. Conversely, just to call a spade a spade, Danica in a stock car, that was good equipment, and she did not meet the expectations of that equipment. Michael Annett, there's certain realities about a guy like Michael Annett, really good equipment. His teammates probably going to win the championship in Justin Allgaier, and Michael isn't. And so, you have to get good drivers and good equipment to learn how good they are, and you've got to get bad drivers and good equipment to see how bad they are.
Do you think there is a large pool of good drivers without the equipment, even in NASCAR right now, in all three series? But obviously, there's plenty of talent at the local level or even mid-national level, I guess I'll call it. But what percentage do you think? We keep talking about Ross Chastain. Is there that kind of talent in the series right now? Do you see, or do you think there's a lot of that right now that's untapped, if you will?
Yeah, I don't want to put like a number,
sure,
or a percentage on it, because I don't have the data in front of me. But I can say off the top of my head, there are a lot of guys that immediately come to mind that I wish could get a shot in really good equipment, because I think they've proven elsewhere that they can win races. To me, we talked about that with Alon Day, right? We're talking about the fact that he is a champion. And any time that you can win races at some level, win a championship at some level, that indicates that there's probably something there. A guy like Corey LaJoie, I know Corey tears up a lot of equipment. He's probably guilty of trying to get too much out of stuff that's not there. But this guy built his own cars and won with them in K&N and ARCA, and he's doing the same thing in late models every time he gets a chance. And he's driving TriStar stuff, and bless their hearts, but there's a certain ceiling on TriStar equipment, and so there are a good number of guys that I especially have the opportunity to watch in late models who I'm like, man, if these guys could get a shot at the highest level, who knows what the limit would be. One of those guys won on Friday at Las Vegas, Grant Enfinger. I've known Grant since I was a teenager. We were teenagers. We're both from Mobile. And now, with good equipment, you're seeing him meet that expectation. Daniel Hemrick, we're still waiting for that first backflip, that first win. But I think he's getting the most out of that car right now because RCR is not really lighting anyone on fire. I think eventually Daniel Hemrick is a cup-level driver. And it's going to be a matter of get him in really good equipment, and he'll show it. There are so many stories like that in Cup, in Xfinity, in trucks, ARCA, late models, karts, what have you, dirt, that they're just really not getting a fair shake. And because the reality of motorsports is you don't get that shake unless someone pays for it, whether you're paying for it or you can convince someone at DC Solar that this is your opportunity and you need to get it. And Ross Chastain did, and he made the most of it.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate side of this business, and it's something that we probably don't understand very well since we're on the outside looking in. And I would say, just seeing how well he's performed and how often he wins, you just when I sit at home in my chair and I see Bubba Pollard's won another race in a super late model, I'm like, how in the hell is this guy not in a National Touring Series vehicle? And I'm sure it's because of what you just said,
and see
Matt.
What's not in there.
Yeah, open your wallet and see what's not there. I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
Actually, I would battle that a little bit. The way that I would battle that is I would use Ryan Preece as the example. Ryan Preece is very similar to Bubba. Bubba could probably find something, and he could probably pay for something at a national touring level. And it wouldn't be really good. It couldn't win races and it couldn't win championships. But I'm sure he could find a way to make a living doing that. But this is a guy that's used to winning every single time he goes to the racetrack. And, to him, this isn't fun unless you can win, especially when you know you can win. So let's take Ryan Preece, right? He's very similar to Ross Chastain. Yep. Ross Chastain, Ryan Preece was driving for JD Motorsports, just like Ross is now. And he was not satisfied running 20th and calling that a good day. This is a guy that's won a modified tour championship, has won races all across the eastern seaboard, and this was not good enough for him anymore. So he said, look, I'm going to leave this funded, paid ride to where I get to go race cars for a living, and they pay me, not the other way around, not me pay them. They're going to pay me, and I'm going to go back and run modifieds because I've got a team owner there who will pay me to run their car and to build their cars, and I'm going to go win races. And what that allowed him to do was take the money that he had been able to put together to run a full season for JD Motorsports and go run 5 for Joe Gibbs. And look at him now. You're talking about finding a cup ride for him somewhere next year in silly season. Matt DiBenedetto, he's been in the news lately, right? Matt DiBenedetto says that running 25th and calling that a good day is not good enough for him anymore, and he wants to make something happen. So that's just the reality of our sport. Same thing with Bubba Pollard. Bubba Pollard, this isn't good for him unless he's winning, and there's so many guys who feel that way.
You get that taste of blood.
I think that's completely fair. I appreciate the perspective for sure.
So 5th period, Sherwin. Dale Jr. running at Richmond in Xfinity. I wrote on here, let's give an over-under. The chances of the Xfinity race outselling the Cup race. Do you think that's possible?
Given the fact that this, as far as any fan knows, this is potentially the last chance that you could see junior race in NASCAR.
Right. Right. I mean, this is Garth Brooks'
There's a whole bunch of unknown. I would say that the Xfinity race is probably going to sell at least as many tickets as the Cup race. Even though, I mean, that's a night race. It's a Friday night race. Like, that's going to be exciting anyway. Although, I think we all, and Weaver will probably weigh in on this too, would say that Richmond, the racetrack, puts on a way better race during the day when the track has a chance to heat up. I mean, for them to put on a good race. But I think the Friday night crowd's probably going to be pretty damn good to see junior race.
Yeah, Weaver.
I was talking to Cassie about it earlier today, and I was kind of joking. I said, "What are the chances that the Xfinity race draws the Cup race?" Because, and then the reason I say that is that last year the crowds were there because they wanted to see Dale race one more time, because as far as they knew, they probably were going to see Dale be able to race again. And so just for the reason that you guys just brought up, if you've got people there in the greater RVA area who are thinking to themselves, I don't know if I can see Dale Jr. race again. I don't know if I'm going to be near when he runs late model, or I don't know if he's going to run an Xfinity race at Martinsville or Kentucky or whatever, you know. If they think this is their last chance to see Dale Jr. race, that's going to be a hot ticket. And, you know, if I was a fan, I'd buy that ticket.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. We'll move on to recess here. Weaver, I don't know if we've ever talked about Bojangles with you, but they just opened up one next to my house, and we've talked about it on the show way too many times. I went and got cups from Bojangles right before the Darlington race when we had Brandon over from Lap Traffic, and we did our thing, and it was bow time. I've been there. So I've had a KFC. By the way, there's a KFC across the street from my neighborhood.
It's been there for 10 years.
I've been here for 10 years. KFC's
it's
been
probably
here
been there for
forever.
25 years.
I've been to that KFC twice. I've been to Bojangles like twice this week, right? So I'm digging me some Bojangles. Bojangles next door, KFC's across the street, right? Weaver, are you into the Bo or what?
So let me tell you something. The one thing that I've missed most about living in the Carolinas is Bojangles fried chicken. It's spectacular. It really is. Let me tell you why. The seasoned French fries. Are those not spectacular?
Them fries are delicious as hell.
And hey, if you want to shake it up one time, get their what is it? Their spiced rice or whatever. I mean, oh my gosh, everything there. What can I say?
They have like a Spanish
the
rice.
grilled chicken club sandwich.
Ooh.
I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this. But the grilled chicken club sandwich, their macaroni and cheese, and a Pepsi. That is my go-to.
So
I'm a little bit disturbed by the Pepsi, but I understand.
I get Dr. Pepper or something. You know, it's got to be. When I see the Pepsi products, I'm like, unsweet tea.
You know what's
sweet
weird
tea
about that
something?
is like, as much as I crap over the years as I've talked about Texas, I'm with you. Like, somehow I don't side with North Carolina. I side with Texas and go with the Dr. Pepper. And I'm like, I don't understand that, but that's okay.
I bring this up because the other day I've got this. It's called Robin Hood, and this is I
tried to sign up for this.
Yeah, it's a mobile application, and it's like, for a while it was invite only. I was one of the first few hundred people to be able to even use it, and they let you do free stock trading, right? And you don't have to pay any fees. Everybody else is charging you $5 every time you want to make a change. They don't care. They're not going to charge you. They make money off of like different kinds of transactions that the normal consumer's not going to do. They don't have any brick and mortar stores. Point of all this is, I put $100 in it like 3 years ago. Never thought about it. And finally, the other day, I was somebody was asking me about, hey, have you ever heard of Robinhood? And I'm like, you know what? I got $100 in that account. I need to put it towards
see
something.
What happens.
So I sat here thinking about what are the different.
Bojangles.
I said, what are the different things that I like? That I could maybe put some money in. What are some? And I'm just looking around my house, going, well, I like Coca-Cola, but it's just $100. In terms of stock, you can buy like half of Coca-Cola stock, or whatever. I go through 10 or 12 things, and then it hits me. It's bow time, baby.
It's bow time.
And I look it up, And sure enough, 13 bucks a share, you can buy Bojangles. So y'all, I am the proud owner of 7 shares of Bojangles, and I am proud to say I am up 17 cents in the last 3 days of trading on Bojangles, and it's the most fun I've had. So I am not just a Bojangles fan of their food. I am now a partial owner of the Bojangles, company. Yeah. So there you go. Is it bow time, Weaver, or what?
It's always bow time, especially if you're in the Carolinas, Georgia. And then let me tell you something, too. They've actually announced, and Jesus, they're opening a Mobile.
Oh,
all right.
You kind of cut out on us.
So I don't know. I don't know if it was you guys investing in it. You guys are cutting out on me too. But yeah, they're expanding. They expanded that Alabama.
That is awesome. It was definitely, you know what pushed it over the edge? Was old Rusty investing $100 into that Bojangles.
I guarantee
they were like, as soon as our volume hits 100,007, we're doing it. And I bought those 7 shares, and they never looked back.
Well, we need to go to Orange Beach and go to like the Floribama bar.
Yeah,
and eat a Bojangles biscuit.
Yes, please.
While we go into the bar.
I'm in. It's time for some Ask PTM. We already talked about Mick Rose asking about his stuff. Let's talk about Andrew Cantian at KHANTZIAN.
Cantian,
what's up? What's up, Cantian? Say hey to Barf for us.
Yeah.
Do you think
how many motors has Barf blown lately?
So I do love this question actually. And I'm gonna read that last part of his question first. Considering the current restraints with ISC and SMI, do you think NASCAR has found a good balance in terms of track diversity throughout the playoff rounds? Are we in a good spot here with the tracks? Weaver, let's let you kick that one off.
For the most part, yeah. Like if you look at the playoffs in a vacuum, and you kind of take out the rest of the regular season, yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I like the fact that Richmond is now a playoff race. There's a part of me that would really enjoy Indianapolis taking off the playoffs instead of being the regular season. But yeah, I think all things considered, the final 11 races as they're constructed now, counting Indy as the regular season cutoff, I like it. I like the diversity. But the coolest thing to me, here's my favorite part about the playoffs as we have it now. There is a wild card race in basically every round.
Yes.
Because you've got Roval as that wild card race. You've got Talladega in the next round, and you've got Martinsville in the penultimate round. And each one of those races kind of have the potential to really ruin someone's season. And my only regret is that Talladega should be a cutoff race. That way the Roval, Talladega, and Martinsville start race. That's fine, too. They would all be in this featured position to eliminate someone the hard way.
That's tough. I'm not sure I would be a fan of randomness at the end. I kind of like all right, first round's going to be a random, and then the rest of them are going to be your driver races. But I don't know. I could see it both ways. I guess we have it both ways right now. But to answer Andrew's question, yeah, I would agree with Weaver that as far as having a wild card every round, I think is what they have done this year that they that hasn't been in years past, I guess, if that was a whole sentence. Sherwin.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well balanced
in
terms of that whole. We have at least one race in each round that is like really unpredictable. Although I don't know that. I mean, Martinsville is only unpredictable because we all remember when Clint Boyer sailed it in there and wrecked everybody. Otherwise, Martinsville is not that all that unpredictable. Like, you're either good there or you're not.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess that's a good point. So there's those who float to the top pretty consistently there. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, it's not the wild card that Talladega is. It's not the wild card that we don't even know what the Roval's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been to 3 races since they announced that the Roval is going to be a thing, and every time both Bob Pockris and and Jeff
Kelly
Gluck
and
anybody else that's there, Kelly Crandall, they all said, and I'll just use their words, they said, it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. That's the words. Yep.
They all said it.
Regardless of whether they drop that word on a regular basis or not, that is the appropriate word for that. So yeah, totally with you. So let's do it. Let's gas it up and go to Richmond. Here's there it is. We're you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who I'm picking because everybody knows who I'm fixing to pick.
What's the night race?
But
so
night race.
Know that
Weaver, what's
going to be a tamer? There's not going to be near as many grooves.
Weaver, what's your take on the race? What storylines are you looking at?
Let me tell you something. I agree that I like Richmond as a day race better. I like Vegas as a day race better. I like all races as a day race better. But I sat down and I was at Richmond in April, and I was entertained. I felt very engaged by that race. I think that's one of the best races that no one talks about this year. And the reason why is I went back and I watched the race on TV, and I went back and watched it from the press box. I saw two completely different races. I don't think that TV did that spring race at night the sort of justice that it probably deserves. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm expecting a very similar race to what we had in April, maybe a little bit more intensity because of the playoffs. I think that track is probably pretty good. It's still a short track race, so as much as it would be better during the day, I think when you throw in that playoff element, we're going to have a pretty good time. And I'll say this. I think it'll be better than having this race being at Dover or at New Hampshire. I think Richmond's better in the playoffs than it was outside of it.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
100% with you on that as far as Richmond goes. Definitely a more exciting, better event than anything we've seen at New Hampshire in the last 10 years. And, I mean, obviously we're going to see Dover in a couple more weeks. At night, there's probably only 1.5. So we'll see how it goes.
Yep. So with that, let's – oh, there's Dale Jr. There we go. It's time to do picks.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll toss it to Weaver first, right?
Well, I mean, everybody knows who I've picked.
Well, Weaver doesn't like to pick because he's a journalist.
But. True. So, Weaver, who's your pick?
I think Martin Truex Jr. is going to get redemption in this race last year for his first short track race. And everyone kept saying, they're going to buckle under the pressure of being in a lame duck scenario.
Mm-hmm.
They had started to taper off and fall behind the big two. They were fast last week, and they're good at Richmond. I think he's going to win this race and put the nail in the coffin to this argument that they're going to fade away and not be as good as they were last year.
That's I like it. I like the bold prediction there.
Sure.
I wouldn't say that I bought into that, but I certainly was asking the question, last week or 2 weeks ago, Sherwin, we talked about it, whether that was like a thing or not a thing. And I think we decided it might be a thing, but we don't know. So that would, to Weaver's point, that would put the nail in the coffin on whether that's a thing. So, Sherwin, you're up.
Oh, goodness. Wow, I feel like you should have to pick.
I'm picking Brad Keselowski 4 in a row, baby. Come on.
I understand.
I want to blow that horn. I'm going to blow that horn for the entirety. If he wins, I will.
Grandpa Ford.
We're gonna have to do 30 seconds straight of blowing the horn.
Yeah,
that's it.
I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I mean, it would be pretty cool, but it's gonna be bad. At the same time.
Right.
Yeah. So I think my pick at Richmond is going to be. I'm going to pick last place. I'm going with sliced bread.
Okay, the sliced bread. Joey Logano there at Richmond. He's been sleeper, quiet since Dega, but
he's overdue.
Overdue. I like.
He's been fast and he's overdue.
I like it. Weaver, any thoughts on those picks?
They're very good at Richmond. I feel like Team Penske in general, very fast there. I told you guys earlier, a part of me wants to pick the 2
Yep.
Well, if I don't go with the 2, maybe I want to pick the 2, and ultimately I landed on the 78. I do kind of a power ranking, 4 and 18. They're good everywhere. Those would be the 3 that I would have on that same tier: 2, 22, and 78.
Sure. All right. Yep. I think that closes us out. So, Weaver, why don't you close us out? Tell everybody where they can find you and what's going on next.
Yeah, it's same mantle, same Matt place, same Matt time. Matt Weaver AW on Twitter, Matt Weaver Motorsports on Facebook. We've got Richmond coming up. My short track scene staff is at New Hampshire for the Full Throttle weekend. Next weekend we're doing the Roll.
Well, I think you might have cut out on us, which is a perfect time to cut out on us, I guess. Next week doing Roval. Thank you, Weaver, as always, for being on the show. It's always fun and getting his perspective, and we can finally, kind of disagree without offending each other now.
I think we got
after
that figured
6
out.
times on. So with that, Sherwin, let's close ourselves out here. Y'all know where to find us, ptmpodcast.com, PTM Podcast on Twitter, at PTM Podcast. And Instagram and everywhere else. Y'all know what the deal is. And I'm Tailgate Mayor, Rusty Wallace, at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Sherwin, at Pregame Engineer on the Twitter. And I am at Andrew L. Sherwin on the Instagram.
Yeah. So thank you again, Matt Weaver, for being on. And we'll talk to y'all next week. It's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. Woo! Week 2 of the playoffs.
We'll let y'all know who the guest is going to be. I can't remember right now, but I think it's already locked in.
Boom.
It's another racer.
Boom.
Could be interesting.
Looking forward to it.
Might be fun.
See y'all next time.
We are NASCAR! We are NASCAR! Woo!
All done. Weaver, do we still have you? Or we? Nope. That was it. Perfect time for the Weaver to run out there. We'll have to
I bet his phone died.
Text him or something. Tell him thanks again. But folks, appreciate you joining. Appreciate you hanging out. It's been an absolute blast.
Live on the YouTube.
Live on the tuber.
Still goof around on this for a little bit.
So, why not? Because I have to race like a piss horse. So,
let me call Brandon or something and just see if he wants to talk.
We'll shut this down, and we'll catch y'all next time. Thank y'all for joining.
Oh, yeah. You're going to shut off the YouTube?
Yes.
Or the,
yes. If you're calling Brandon, I'm shutting this off.
All right. Yeah, we might say something bad.
All right. We'll see y'all later.